throughout the country begin to get vaccinated and the dating world opens up, I felt really compelled to tell you about the last first date I went on. It was kind of a while ago, but still during COVID, so let's just fucking relax with my timelines, okay? We're gonna call this guy Roger because after the date he invited me back to his neighborhood. Spoiler alert, I did not go. Roger's pictures were so cute. He looked like if Screech went in one of those machines that Urkel would go in and then come out looking like Stefan or Kel. If you do not get that reference, go get a time machine and grow up in the 90s, baby. I can't help you. So, to sum it up, he was a cutie patootie. He suggested this dope-ass little wine bar. The menu was great. They had outdoor seating. When I arrived, pull out those time machines, people, because this motherfucker sure enough was from the future. The photos he used had been 5 or 6 years old. Mine are about 2 or 3. Like attracts like, I guess. Still handsome. He's just a little older than I anticipated. I sit down, and he's warm. Not physically. I didn't touch him. We're in a pandemic. But warm in spirit. The second sentence out of his mouth is, "You want a bottle of wine or a glass? Because I'm going to get a glass." I am broke. Sir, what? You're broke? You picked the motherfucking restaurant in the name of Jesus. Let the choir say amen. You may think my judgment is not warranted. You may say, Rocky, he was honest with you from the jump. He said he's broke, and he laid it out on the table. No! If he was honest, he would have told me before. He picked the expensive wine bar. Having me meet him at a place with $17 rosé by the glass, I would have gone to a dive bar. I love dive bars, bitch. I'm broke too. Next, because of COVID rules, you gotta order food. Now, let's get something straight. I'm not one of these women who is shy to eat on a date. Now, we could split those ribs, my guy, but I want the last one. And sidebar, why do restaurants always give you an odd number of ribs? Are all God's creatures walking around with lopsided-ass ribs? The fuck? COVID rules you have to order something to eat. So he asks, what would you like to eat? And for a split second, with his silky-ass voice and his little Bruno Mars curls, I almost forgot that he was broke. And as I'm opening my mouth to answer, he chimes right back in. I'll eat this thing, a shrimp thing, or the scallion pancake. I'm sure I made a face, because I'm a real one. And I said, insert fake smile. Oh, okay, scallion pancakes it is. Oh, shit. I'm really sorry, guys, if the mic picked that up. That noise was my pussy juice evaporating into the abyss. No wop over here. Then I told him, because of the shrimp dish he had named, that I was allergic to shrimp. Because I'm allergic to shrimp. If you think he cared, he didn't. He didn't acknowledge it, and he asked me if I like soccer. Okay? As you can imagine, he loves soccer. One of the reasons I swiped right was because the front of his chest was ridiculous. But he talked about soccer until our waiter came over. Now, if you're following, we did not get a bottle of wine. We got a glass each. And as the food runner is dropping off our scallion pancakes, he pulls his mask down and asks the waiter if he's from Italy. The waiter, clear as day, says, "No, sir, Mexico." Does Roger leave it alone there? No, he starts speaking Italian to him very badly. I know that Spanish and Italian are very similar languages, but just stop. Pull your mask up and let this man live. We order another round because I'm in it at this point. And he tells me he lived in Italy with a not-so-subtle wink. You don't say. When the scallion pancakes hit the table, I pulled my fork out and my share plate, and he let out a surprised, "Oh, yeah, please, help yourself. Were you not present when you listed my options, bruh? Have you forgotten when you said you'd eat this, the shrimp thing, or the scallion pancakes? Why are you making it weird that we're gonna share this dish? I thought that was understood by every action taken beforehand. I would have ordered my own scallion pancakes had they not been $140 fucking dollars each. They weren't that much, but they were expensive for sure for scallion pancakes. I mean, I can make those at home, and I do often, minus the scallions. It's just shaved potatoes, and I kind of just fry 'em. The date goes on, and we start to talk about improv, something I've poured my soul into for over 10 years. You guessed it, gang. He was much more versed on the subject, because you betcha he was currently enrolled in virtual classes, his first one. We make it to our third round. I don't know what the hell I'm still doing at this table. Perhaps I found him intriguing. I enjoy observing people and their behavior, but, my preference was not to have him enter me. Ever. After the third round, he asked me if I was still hungry. This felt like a leading question, and as you remember from my rib foible earlier, of fucking course I'm hungry. Then he ever so confidently says, no problem. Our waiter comes over and he orders us another round, and then he orders the shrimp dish. That's when I could hear my internal organs quietly finding their seats to my soul's funeral because your girl died inside. Before the shrimps hit the table, he grabs my hand and rubs it. I retreat, slowly. Even at 4 glasses, we weren't at rub my hand status during a pandemic after you order food you know I'm allergic to. Honey. When the check came, he stared in my eyes and said the sentence, I think we'd be really good at sleeping together. I swallowed my scallion pancake for the second time, and I waited for him to pay, to which he then looked at me and brought back his famous wink and said, why don't we go ahead and split this? $92 goddamn dollars. Each, bitch. Each. Do you think I was free after that? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. He texted me at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time the next morning on a Saturday to ask me out again. That sound is my real vibrator. And he never makes me go Dutch.
It's time for
the
Rocket
Hello, Party God Squad. Welcome to the Rocky Rundown, where you get to learn a little bit about my week. Big week. It was Easter. Well, I know a Sunday has happened in between Easter, but for purposes of this recording, it was Easter. I also got invisible liners for my teeth, which hurt like a motherfucker. And we lost both DMX and Prince Philip. Now, I sincerely want to say, rest in peace to DMX. That man was an icon, and I have grinded to many a 14 to 19-year-old boy in my teenage years to his incredible music. Gone too soon, but not soon forgotten. Much love to DMX. Now, Prince Philip. Am I the only person who just learned who he was? I thought QE was single. I'm serious. I never heard of this dude. Maybe I've been living under my name, but that was surprising to me. Moving on then. My Easter was an absolute blast. My family is so much fun. When I arrived to our socially distant outdoor Easter family shindig, my aunt greeted me with an Easter basket. So sweet, but she's not like a regular aunt. She's a cool aunt. So she said there were some 20 milligram edibles in there for me. She said, take half. I heard swallow it whole. Then it kicked in. And it kicked in while my brother was acting out what it would be like if the character Randall from the TV show This Is Us had a storyline where he loved Michael Jackson, and the rest of the family didn't appreciate Randall's love for Michael Jackson except his triplet sister, Kate, who was naturally better at the dance moves than Randall would have been. And they tried to learn the dances together as a child, and I realized that this is a very niche sentence. I was laughing so hard that I couldn't catch my breath, and tears were parading down my face. I was pleading with my brother to stop acting the scene out because I was laughing so hard that my stomach was in pain. I knew it was that edible giggle. It's just uncontrollable. And my dad was very annoyed by the whole scene. Not because we were laughing, but because he doesn't like to be left out of the joke, ever. He wants to be in on the joke, he wants to be laughing with everyone, but he doesn't know the show, so he wasn't laughing as hard as us. And he said the sentence, "Oh man, y'all losing me with that David Letterman humor," which sent me into a tailspin of laughter, and I'll never forget it. David Letterman humor. What does that mean? That was the creme de la creme of my highest moments of the week. I have many more, but nothing can top that. Either my weed dealer is under milligramming me, or this was a 200 milligram edible, because there was no way this was only 20 milligrams, by the by. I'm so excited because my guest this week is Canada's own Ruthless, Ravi Khanna. I'm just gonna say it. Ravi is officially a party god, and he's in our party god squad. Not only is he extremely edgy and cutting and ruthless like his name, he is wild, and his story proved that. His wild word was precarious, and his story was quite precarious. I would like to take a second to thank everyone who's liked, shared, and subscribed to the podcast, and extra special thanks to everyone who rated and left such positive and kind reviews. I read them all, and it really does make a difference. If you'd like to do any of those actions, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Wild Nights with Rocky, on Twitter at Wild Nights Pod, and now in your ears. So strap in and please enjoy my Wild Nights conversation with Ravi Khanna. Ravi, welcome. Thank you for doing the podcast.
What's up? Thank you for having me. This is amazing.
Absolutely. All the way from Canada. How are things in Canada right now?
Canada's Canada. You know, we're doing all right. A lot of us are still living off the government, but
yes,
weed's completely legal, so you can smoke that as much as you want.
Everywhere. You guys have dispensaries everywhere?
Yeah, countrywide. It's weak shit though. Like the dispensary stuff, like our edibles. It's not like Colorado where you can get like heavy duty shit out there. Here it's like they limit you to like 10 milligrams, but if you know where to go, the gray market is good shit. Now normally when I go on any podcast, I usually do bring gifts for the host, so I have these mushrooms and these edibles, so when I do meet you in person, remind me to hook you up with some stuff, some party favors.
Did you just tell me that you have mushrooms and edibles to give me?
Yes, I will. When I see you next time I'm down your way, I'll have them. But I'm gonna enjoy these on your behalf, much like an award show that you can be at. I'm gonna enjoy these on your behalf. So yes.
I could cry right now. Mushrooms and edibles are two of my favorite things. Thank you.
As they
so
should
much.
be. They should be. Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
We'll enjoy these someday. Yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows I am a big fan of psilocybin and psilocybin saving the world. So you have started off on a good foot with me. 10 milligrams, by the way. What the hell is anyone going to do with 10 milligrams?
Oh, it's terrible. You got like these hipsters working at these like dispensaries, like government-owned dispensaries. It's not like in California where just anyone can just kind of, you know, if you get your licenses, you can open up one. Here, it's really regulated. So the stuff they're selling, it's all like really low dosage stuff. It's not going to get anyone high because they're afraid of like in Vancouver, they're afraid of like the dogs ingesting this stuff. Like if they happen to come across a gummy on a walk, they're going to eat it, or like, and then kids and babies and stuff, obviously. But you know, this like these low dosages don't do anything. So you got to get like with me, I like to do normally like a 40-50 milligram and I'm good to kind of just chill, right? Game out, whatever. But the actual dispenser, you got to get like a whole chocolate bar and just eat the whole thing to feel anything. It's horrible.
Here you can buy, when you buy weed from a dealer, you know, not from a dispensary, they just give you the dispensary stuff. So it's pretty legit.
Yeah, it's always bad. I always feel bad when I run into my dealer from the hood now. And I'm just like, hey man, can I get some shit off you? Like if the dispensaries are closed or whatever. Because what'll happen in Vancouver is a dispensary will open and it'll be kind of privately run and then they'll get shut down within like a week. So then you got to go back to your dealer. And then I contact my dealer like, hey man, are you around? Can I grab some shit off you? He's like, oh man, I'm a CPA now. I'm doing accounting. I'm like, oh man, like they're just running everybody out. It's terrible. It's sad to see.
In the meanwhile, do my taxes. So we can both agree that throughout Canada and the United States, whether you're buying legally or buying illegally, according to the government, it can be precarious, which was your wild word.
Yes. Precarious is my wild word.
So
and as such, yeah, do you have a definition of precarious for the people who don't?
My definition of precarious would be kind of like, you know, a sticky situation.
Yes. And in this story, now, I'm going to preface the story by saying this, like, much like now when you load up Disney Plus or Peacock in the States, you'll see a lot of messages before your favorite 90s show saying, you know, it was a different time. So the show is reflected upon that. Don't take it too seriously. I'm going to preface my story with that just by saying that the story takes place in a different time. You know,
Okay.
obviously the stuff that happens in this story, it wouldn't fly so much in 2021. But I think your
Gotcha.
listeners are cool. I think we're just gonna tell it as is. We're not gonna edit it out. We're gonna keep this precarious story in its full 100% precariousness.
All right, we'll
if
see.
that is a word. It is. Yeah, we'll keep it as is. Yeah.
So what happened?
All right. So this story takes place back in the good old days of 2015. Now, doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but if you think about it, culture-wise and just everything that's going on in the world, it's a completely different place now, you know?
Absolutely.
So 2015 was awesome. You could pretty much do a lot, get away with a lot, say some stuff that you can't necessarily say nowadays. But back then, it was all good. You can do whatever, have a good time. So this party takes place back in the good old days of 2015, in the autumn of 2015. This is right around the time of Halloween. Now, one of my best buddies, we've been friends since elementary school, he always throws the best house parties. I don't know if you guys have a friend, or Rocky, if you have a friend who is just a house party friend, where you just know when they have a party, you have to be there because it's going to be a shindig and a half. It's like a Gatsby party. These are the type of parties this guy would throw at his house. Right. Just insanely fun Gatsby level parties, you know?
Gotcha. Lots of
and
people,
I was kind of like,
drinks.
Oh, a lot of just, you know, who's who of East Vancouver would show up, you know?
Gotcha.
My thing with these parties is that I always would end up there. But I would always kind of screw around with my buddy and tell him, hey, man, I can't make that date. I'm out of town. I'm doing this. I got a podcast. I'm doing a set somewhere. Busy, I can't be there. And obviously, yeah, I'm busy. And then he'll get a little disappointed. But then what I would do is I would show up at the parties as a different character. Reason for that being is that, you know, when you're a kid and you go to a party and like you're like 6 or 7 and like Spider-Man shows up and the next day at school, everyone's talking about how they got to party with Spider-Man, even though it's not the real Spider-Man. It's, you know,
but yeah, those people that would, dress up in costume. My mom used to have like Barbie come to our party, Spider-Man, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, so these parties, I would go usually as different wrestling characters. I know you had Josh Martinez on. He's a big wrestling fan. He was talking about that stuff. A lot of comics I find as well. I don't know if you find this out there as well, but a lot of comics I find are either closeted wrestling fans or they're just out with it, you know? Around 2015, I was still... Yeah.
I was going to say, I have a group of friends in the comedy community in New York. They call themselves the Bullet Club. So shout out to the Bullet Club. But yes, I know that's...
Oh, yeah. I'll throw up the Too Sweet to the Bullet Club out in New York. Repping.
Langston Belton, who was on the show, he's in the Bullet Club.
Oh, man. I someday wish I could be in the Bullet Club. But anyways, like the... so a lot of wrestling fans, they're like comedy guys. They're either closeted or they're out with it. I'm loud and proud with my wrestling fandom, you know. 10 years ago, I'd kind of hide it, but now it's like, yeah, whatever. What I got to hide? Times are different now. People are more accepting. So I'd show up as different wrestling characters. So one year, I'll send you these. Maybe you can throw them up. But this was me as Ric Flair. Yeah, that was me as Ric Flair one year.
Oh wow, so you went all out. Boy. Yeah.
Oh, I designed the costumes myself. Another year, I'm also a big Simpsons fan. This is a deep cut Simpsons reference. This was Bang Bang Bart. So yeah, so that one was Bart when he was a. Could either be the Supreme Court justice or a male stripper, and he was a male stripper. For this particular party, I wanted to go all out because it was a big event for us, big evening. I think he was turning 25. So I told him, I'm not going to be there. I'm sorry. But then I decided to go all out with the costume. I went as Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, who in my opinion is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Okay. And this was the costume. This was from the night of, a little photo grid there of just, so I designed the jacket, the shorts, all that stuff. Yeah. So I show up at the party and people go ape shit. They're like, oh man, Ravi's here. He's this is going to be a crazy night. Now here's the thing as well. Like there was a time in Vancouver history where, you know, we talk about dynasties a lot. And you know, in the States, you know, you've got the Chicago Bulls of the 90s, a dynasty. Yes. The New York Yankees, a dynasty. You know, there's dynasties, the Patriots, dynasty.
Yeah.
There was a time from like 2010 to about early 2020 where I was the dynasty of like the party animal guy. You know, I was just the guy.
Party guy.
If there was a party happening, and unfortunately, like, yeah, I was just that guy. And it was a role that I took very seriously. It was like, I was like the poet laureate, you know, like I would show up and just get fucked up at all these parties. I was like, to akin it to wrestling, I was like the Mick Foley of partying. You know, a lot of people would call me that, where Mankind Mick Foley would just destroy his body in these wrestling matches, you know, getting thrown through thumbtacks and tables. I was doing that on a party level of just, you know, damaging my body with drugs and alcohol, right? So at the time, people asked me, like, Ravi Khanna, what's your biggest regret in life? To this day, It's that I'll never know and get to experience what it's like to walk into a house party and party with me, you know? And it kills me every day. It murders me on the inside that I never get to experience that. My fiance says it's not that great, but the boys, they're like,
she's
yo,
still
that was
marrying you.
those days. I know, right? Oh man, yeah, she's a trooper. Good on her. Yeah, so this is like the kind of thing I'm living up to, where it got to a point where every party that would pass, I would try to outdo myself and do another crazy jackass style stunt or whatever, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm at this party and everyone's kind of at already a very high expectations are high. They're expecting something crazy to happen, right?
And you've said that you're not going to this party.
Yeah, they weren't even expecting me. They were just like, oh man, I thought this guy was out of town. Like, I even posted Snapchats of me at the airport with the passport. So people are like, oh, Ravi's out of town. He's not going to be here. That sucks. I show up, lo and behold. And the thing is, too, in wrestling, there's a term called kayfabe. I don't know if you know what this is, but kayfabe is basically, kayfabe is when you don't break character, you know? So if you're a bad guy in wrestling, a heel, you're not going to be seen fraternizing with a good guy, you know, because you want to stay in character. It's more of like an 80s, 90s thing that kind of nowadays it's all open, but I wasn't breaking kayfabe, you know, just for the love of the game. So I'm staying in character, you know, I'm doing the yo Chico. Yeah, I'm going, hey Chico, the bad guy. I'm doing the taunts. I got the toothpick, you know, the whole Scott Hall razor bone thing. And I'm partying like Scott Hall probably would have been partying in his day, you know, with the drugs and alcohol. So I'm out here and I'm doing my whole thing. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a Medieval Times ever. You ever go to Medieval Times dinner and tournament?
You know, there's one that's not too far away in Jersey, but I have not been there. I also want to ask one question before you get into the Medieval Times thing.
Yeah.
This night you said drugs and alcohol. Everybody knows what alcohol is, but there's different kinds of party drugs. You've got Molly, you've got Coke, you've got mushrooms, if that's the route you want to go down. Can you say what drugs you were doing?
All of the above, other than needle drugs, I will say. And I'll get into the sequence of it. Yeah. I'll get into what I've done at this night. Got wild a little bit. So anyways, so go back to Medieval Times now. Medieval Times is like a fun, like, it's basically like a restaurant where you go to and they're doing like jousting and a bunch of medieval shit, right?
Yeah, no
it's
forks
fun.
and knives.
Yeah, but they got Pepsi, which is weird. Anyways, but like they got doesn't make any sense. Anyways, but it's great. You get to eat with your hands. They give you a big piece of chicken. It's like old school, right? So everyone's having a good time. I'm at Medieval Times, and I noticed in their gift shop they got a bunch of fun little thingamajigs and souvenirs. My buddy who was throwing the party as a joke when we were in Anaheim Anaheim just at Disneyland and all that stuff in LA. And he goes to the gift shop and he sees this shot glass here. Now this is like an 8-ounce shot glass. It's a very tall shot glass, right?
So it's a double, probably, right?
A little bit more than I think it was about 8 shots. Like when you really like 8 ounce, like it's an 8 ounce, whatever. Yeah. It's like, so as you go up on the levels, it goes to like the one shot would be a page, and then you go Squire, then Knight, then Lord Marshal, then King at the top, right?
Gotcha.
So it's a big shot. Now, my buddy bought this, and I was like, no one's ever gonna have any of those. Like, we laughed it off. But he's like, it's $3, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that over the next 8 years it would become my official party cup at all these parties, right? So in Vancouver, I don't know what it's like, what y'all drinking on the East Coast, but in Vancouver, the drink of choice of Southeast Asians or dippers, as we like to be called, or Indian guys, is Crown Royal, obviously, right? That's the whiskey of choice. I know on the East Coast, I got some cousins down in Toronto and Brampton and New York and Chicago. They only fuck with the Johnny Walker double black, right? Right, so we fuck with Crown Royal. That's our thing out here. So we would pour full shots, like full glasses of this Crown Royal, and I would proceed to then just drink these shots, right? And it's in one go, like just getting destroyed. In less than less than 10 seconds, I'm taking down this shot. Here, we'll play a little bit of audio here of this.
Wow.
Yeah. So I get there, and just to start the party up, because I show up late. When you show up late, you got to catch up. Then you're never catching up to, they all claim like, hey, we're 8 drinks in. And I'm like, all right, pour me 2 king shots. So I walk in and I do a 16-ounce shot of these 2 king shots. So I'm taking about a quarter bottle of this 60 of Crown. I'm drinking about a quarter of that in less than 5 minutes, right?
Wow, that's
like 16 shots right into you. It gets the party going. It gets the people going. Everyone's riled up. It's going to be a good night. You know? Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like a lot of times it's just for the crowd. You know, I'm like, why am I doing this? But then it's like, hey, everyone's having a good time. It's no damage to me. I'll be fine.
You're an
So,
entertainer.
yes, exactly. So I'm make sure everyone has a good time. Now at these parties, like I said, kind of like a Gatsby party. There's a who's who will show up, and you don't necessarily know these people. There's the core group of like 20 that you know and you fuck with, but then there's a bunch of outsiders who you don't necessarily know. They're his buddies from the gym, his cousins, whatever, right?
Whoever,
you don't know these people, but it's all fam. Everyone's having a good time, So I start chatting up some guy. He starts talking to me. He's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I do stand up, I do comedy, whatever." Kind of breaking character a little. The drinks are getting to me. And we're talking, and he goes, "Hey, you want to do a shot?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'll do a shot with you." He's like, "I only do vodka." I'm like, "No problem, dude. I'll drink vodka. Let's go."
Okay.
So pours me a regular shot of vodka, and I notice him kind of pouring it, but I'm talking to other people. I'm not really paying attention. This guy comes back with the shot, hands it off to me. It's a nice Ciroc, So he hands me the Ciroc. He's like, "It's Ciroc, bro." I'm like, "Awesome. I love Ciroc. I'll fuck with that." Take the shot back, and tasted kind of powdery. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, "What flavor is that?" Because Ciroc has all these flavors. I'm like, "What is that? A coconut?" He's like, "A little bit." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, that's I put some Molly in there for you." And I'm like, now I don't fuck with Molly too often. Like I do, because with Molly, I got a bunch of buddies who will do Molly, but they'll drink water with it. They'll stay hydrated, right? With me, I'm a big time alcoholic. Yeah, I know. I don't drink water though. I just can't. Like fish fucking it. I don't want to get into it. So I just don't drink water on the regs, So this guy hands me this, and I'm like, "Molly." I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, how much did you put in there?" He's like, "Bro, you'll be fine. Just enjoy yourself, man. You haven't been drinking that much." I'm like, "Dude, I just did 2 fucking big ass shots there. I'm gonna be fucked in like a half hour." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that, man. I'm sorry." I'm like, "Oh, dude. All right, don't worry. It's cool. We'll be fine." So now I'm kind of getting into my head a little bit. I'm trying to no sell the fact that I'm kind of shook right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the Molly's good. Because I've only done Molly up to this point a couple of times.
I was going to ask how many times that you had done Molly before, and I assume both those times were planned.
Yeah, like they'd be like, "Hey, we're going to a rave." So there's like they do a bunch of raves and stuff back in the day here. So I'd go to those, and they're fun. Like, so you're gonna do Molly though, and you'd stay hydrated, have a little drink, but not a lot, enough to sustain yourself. So I always had some decent experiences, but then I would always there was another time where I would just black out because I just drank so much. So I just ended up blacking out a lot off of Molly. So I just tried not to fuck with it too much. I would do like all the other party drugs, but Molly I kind of avoided. And it was really popular at that, like in the mid like 2010s there. It got really popular for a bit there.
The shit is still
so
popular.
I was just like, still popping, yeah, it's still going. Here we like, because everything else is so accessible here, like we can just get shrooms. They have dispensaries for shrooms here. You just walk into and grab shrooms. So
that's incredible.
So we're yeah, it's nice. We'll get there someday. But yeah, so I'm kind of tripping out. I'm like, "Oh man." So then I run to my buddy. Everyone in Vancouver claims to be a weed aficionado, right? Everyone's got their own strains. Everyone's rolling. Everyone's got their own kind of pipes and their own vapes and everything. So I go outside to the weed center, and I'm like, "Guys, let's smoke. I need something here." Buddy hands me the Volcano. I don't know if you ever hit the Volcano.
Is it a bong?
Like the weed? Yeah, well, the Volcano is just like the bag where they just put the weed in that, and you smoke that, and you really inhale it, and it gets you fucked up. It's like one toke of that. Oh, it's great. Yeah, get a Volcano. You can get them off eBay for like $80. They're awesome. So I hit that. I'm like, "All right, cool. This will mellow me out. This will kind of bring me back down. I'm gonna be good, right?" So then I do that, and then buddy shows up with the edibles, and he's like, "Yo, man, do some edibles." I'm like, "You know what? Just give me like 15 milligrams right now. I'll be all right with 15." So now I got a nice cocktail of drugs and alcohol going on. I'm feeling pretty decent, right? Now I start feeling good. I start talking to some people. There's some strangers there. And now when I talk about the precariousness of the situation now, it's not just me that was in a precarious situation. It was drunk me putting other people in precarious situations as well, because then I just kind of started roasting the room, which is fun, like, kind of just picking on people and just like, "Where are you from?" Which I was just doing crowd work at this point, basically. I'm holding court out there on the balcony. Basically, I'm just kind of freestyle, just going off on people there, and it's fun. Everyone's having a good laugh, but there are some people, when people don't know you, like when people know me, like as the character or like the guy, like, it's just Ravi, he's doing his thing. Don't worry. It's all, we're just having a good time, just having a laugh. But when there's people who are new to a situation and they're already kind of feeling uncomfortable, kind of feeling out of place, it's not a good idea to roast them, especially when they don't know that, you know, you're a comic or whatever, you know, or that you're roasting as just as a fun thing to get the crowd going.
You haven't built
So
up
yeah,
a trust. You haven't built up a trust.
yeah, a trust or a rapport. And I was a younger guy at the time, so I was just like, you know, everyone's down for this. I'm just gonna, to a point, I don't know, I must have said something that triggered somebody. And the next thing I know, my phone is gone. Don't have my phone on me. I can't find my iPhone. And I'm like, oh no, my phone's gone. And I'm kind of like, and everyone thinks I'm joking. They're like, yeah, it'll turn up. It'll turn up. So I'm paranoid off the coke and the molly and the weed. And I'm like, which one of you motherfuckers took my phone? I know one of you guys has my phone. And the thing is with that, like with most comics now, I never had like the notebook. I would always just store my stuff in my phone, right? So all my notes are in there, all my bits are in there, all my sets. So I'm kind of freaking out. Yeah, and I'm like, I need this phone. I don't have it backed up. I got to find this phone. And I'm just like getting coke anxiety now, you know, where I'm just like paranoid the fuck out of my mind. And I'm like, who has my phone? I'm literally going up to everyone at this party, and everyone knows me 10 minutes ago as like the guy who was just partying, having a great time. And now I'm just paranoid in their face, like, where's my phone? You know, I'm like just a scary brown guy just up in their face.
Okay.
And so people are all like, oh man, Ravi, your phone will turn off. So kind of some people are helping, some people aren't. So I'm getting really paranoid here. And to add to the precariousness of the situation, I had some nudes on the phone of myself.
Oh, okay, naturally.
Like, yeah, and it wasn't, yeah, I know. And it wasn't, and they were nudes for my girlfriend. They weren't just nudes I was just sending out, you know, like unsolicited. They were nudes that I made for my girlfriend.
They're
so
your
obviously,
affirmation nudes?
Yeah. And I was just in these nudes, because a lot of them I'd send to her as like a joke. Like, hey, here's my cock, and here's me, like, good morning. Like, just, you know, joke stuff. It was the early 2000s. Anyways, yeah, so, or early 2010s. And so I'm like, oh shit. Not that I had a problem with it, but I'm like, I'm in these photos. Probably not a good idea to have them out there. So now I'm like tripping out even more, and I'm like, all right, where's my phone? And so I'm just like, God damn it, I'm tripping out. I gotta go. So I'm like, it got to a point where kind of my buddies at the party were like, Ravi, you're off base here. You gotta go. And I'm like, all right, I've been kicked out of fancier parties than this. Fuck y'all. I'm like, I'm done. So I kind of mouth everybody off. And everyone's still kind of laughing because they think I'm joking. To a point I was, but I was still pretty pissed off about not having my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I was mad, but you know, when the comic, like, these people don't see me mad. I don't usually get mad. I'm very chill, obviously. But I'm just like, I was mad. So I'm like, oh, fuck you guys. I'll go to a better party. I don't need this. I've been kicked out of better places than this. This place sucks. So I'm really getting like, I'm on my Rick James level of just, to that level of habitually line stepping. I had stepped over the line and I had to go. I knew that. I recognized this. This is before Uber, so I had to wait for a cab to come pick me up. So I'm waiting outside. Cab grabs me, drives me home, and I'm steaming. I'm mad. Mm-hmm. But I get home. I'm like, you know what? The phone will turn up. These guys are just fucking around. Whatever. I get home, and nobody's home because everybody else is at parties. It's the weekend, autumn time. There's a lot of Indo-Canadian community. There's a lot of parties. There's no shortage of parties to go to. So my brothers are all out.
Yeah, you're in your mid-20s.
Yeah, so we're all out. Yeah, we're all out. My brothers are out. My parents are out. No one's home. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna go pass out. I'm gonna hit the bed. And I was to the point of exhaustion where I knew when I hit that bed, I was gonna be out for 12 to 14 hours. It was one of those, right? Mm-hmm. So I get home, and now here's a little tip, a little life hack, if you will. In the winter time, in the autumn, Canada, it gets a little cold, right? And New York as well. Yeah, Canada, you know, we're up north a little. I don't know if you know that. It gets a little cold up here.
Wow.
So in the winter time, I like to wear my night clothes hot out of the dryer, you know? Mm-hmm. And in the wintertime, I usually just rock like a pair of basketball shorts and just like a wife beater or like just a wrestling t-shirt.
Yeah.
I'll wear that to bed. That's kind of what I like to wear to bed. So I like to go home and I put it in the dryer. So I have the dryer set already. I turn it on. Now I'm in the laundry room just waiting for my 10 minutes for this to surpass. I can't move. I'm just going to chill here while this goes. I'm waiting. As I'm waiting there, I'm like, well, I should probably take some of this costume off. So I was wearing like one of those muscle tops, you know, like the costume. So I take that off. Now I'm just wearing the Razor Ramon vest, you know. So I'm just rocking that, nothing else underneath. And then I've got the shorts I was wearing. I sewed it myself with the razor on the back and the little razors on it. I sewed all that. These were like swimming shorts though, originally, just black swim trunks.
Okay.
And with guys, the swimming trunks, they have the underwear mesh, right? So I was kind of rocking it commando that night because I was like, the shorts have underwear. Why am I going to double up here?
Yeah.
You know? So I was just rocking that. So as I'm waiting, I'm like, well, let it breathe, you know? So, you know, I'm there to enjoy myself, have a good party. So I pull the shorts off and, you know, the molly, I don't know if it was from the molly or the coldness. There was just nothing there. You know, I was just there, and it was really inside me at this point. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna let it hang here. So I take it off, and I'm just standing there now in just a bare vest, right? Just the vest. That's it.
Winnie the Pooh.
Next thing I know, yeah, I'm at like 3 minutes on the dryer. I'm like, all right, this is probably hot enough. Next thing I know, I hit the ground, blackout, hit the ground, and at the time, like thank God for quarantine because I really slimmed down a little bit. Like I was, you know, I was always kind of a bigger guy. I was kind of a chubster, but I slimmed down a bit because I just haven't been partying. There's been no parties to go to, so because of that, no drinking, no partying, no joy. I've kind of settled down a little, right?
Okay.
But during this time, I was a little heavier. I was around like 230. You know, I was a big boy. I hit the ground, ceramic tile, loud bang, right? And I'm like, oh fuck. Now, when you're blacked out, I don't know, for those who haven't been blacked out before, I welcome everybody to try to get blacked out every now and then. You have to. Yeah. It's a good reset, you know?
Yeah.
So I hit the ground and a good reminder that you're human and this shit can catch up to you, right?
Yes.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, goddamn, I'm on the ground. And now when I black out, I'm still kind of alert. Like I know what's happening around me, but I can't make sounds or move. And I got really bad cotton mouth at this point. So I'm like, well, fuck, I guess I'm just gonna stay here until someone gets me. All of a sudden I hear someone coming down the stairs. And I'm like, oh shit, somebody's home because one of my brothers was at this party with me.
Okay.
My other brother was at another party. So I'm like, okay, I guess my younger brother must have gotten home before me somehow, but he was still at the party. So it didn't make any sense. Then I remembered that my older brother had gotten married a couple of weeks before this. His wife had moved in with us. I was fucked up at the time. Okay. I was really flying by the seat of my pants. So my sister-in-law, lovely lady, is living with us now, right? And that's the Indo-Canadian culture. That's kind of what happens. The eldest will get married and then his wife will move in with the family. Just as a transition period, kind of get set to life with that. You know, you get to know the family a little. It's a little thing we do. So she's living with us and she comes from a very sheltered life, you know, a very she's a very like classically Punjabi, you know, like just growing up in that cultural traditional sense, you know, which is great.
More wholesome than you.
More wholesome, definitely. 100%. Yeah. So she's just used to a certain way of people living and whatever. My family though, like she comes from like a very good family where everyone talks to each other. How was your day? Like really Danny Tanner, like wholesome shit. Yeah. My family's not like that at all. Nobody talks to each other. We just hate each other. It's like a reality. It's like towards the end of Big Brother, you know, when when there's like 5 people left in the house and they all hate each other and you're like, God, I hate fucking this guy so badly. So that's kind of what it was. And we're just all like, just, you know, not even talking. No one eats together. It's whatever. So she's already kind of feeling shell-shocked, out of place. She's very homesick. Yeah. And now she hears someone like a loud bang. I hear her on her phone. She's calling my brother like, hey, I'm really scared. I'm home alone. I think someone's trying to break into the house. I just heard a loud commotion downstairs. I don't know what to do. And I hear my brother going like, well, just go check it out. Maybe it's one of the bros. Like, no one's going to break into the house. Like, it's fine. And she's like, I don't know. I'm very scared. Like, and she's freaking out. She walks in and sees me and I'm blacked out with my ass up. Right. So I'm just face down, ass up. And she's like, oh my God, it's Ravi. I think he had a heart attack. And now granted, okay, I was like a bigger guy, but 230 is not that big. Like I'm not gonna have a heart attack at 24, you bitch. Like, come on, man. And so I was pretty mad. I can hear this. I'm trying to alert her that I'm okay. Just leave me be. Pretend you didn't see any of this and go away. But she's got a caring gene in her. She cares. So she's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And she's freaking out, having a panic attack. Yeah. And I'm just there and I'm trying to tell her like, hey, it's good. I'm trying to communicate, but I can't open my eyes or I just can just make kind of muffled noises.
Which is not probably helping your case.
Not at all. So she's freaking out. She thinks I'm dead or dying. And so she's not used to people doing drugs and this kind of stuff. So my brother, I hear him kind of freaking out as well. And he's like, well, he's used to me being me and doing my thing at the time. And so he's like, okay, well, just kind of tap him. He'll be okay. Just tap him, check his pulse. And she's like, I don't know. I'm freaking out. It was like a real like 911 call. Like when you see people like calling, like it was like when Whitney Houston passed away and like Bobby Brown, she's overdosed. I don't know. And so she's freaking out. I'm like, God damn it. I'm fine. Don't worry. So she kind of kicks me a little, like kind of soft touch. And it's enough for me not to respond, but to roll over. Right. So now I'm ass down. I know. And I felt so bad for her. And so now at the time, like, I don't know what's going on with me, like whether it's the touch or whatever, but I feel myself kind of plumping up down there a little bit. And, it's hard to talk about now, but like she's freaking out. And she's like, oh my God, he's naked. And my brother's like, what do you mean he's naked? Why is my brother naked in front of you? What's happening? There's like no video calling at this time, so he's freaking out. Like, what do you mean he's naked? What's happening?
Oh my God.
He thinks I'm trying to accost her or something. I don't know. I'm passed out, and I'm kind of like there. And she's like, I don't know. I think he's blacked out. I don't know. And I'm like, I'm able to let out the words, I'm fine. Like, I'm okay. And she's like, I don't know what to do. So she calls my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, to come over. My girlfriend wasn't at the party. She's not a big partier. She's more academic. She's really smart. Obviously not by choosing me. I don't know what happened. But anyways, she shows up, and all she does is just kind of taps me on the shoulder, and I look at her. I'm like, hey, what's up? Where am I? And she's like, I don't know. You must have blacked out. You're in your laundry room. I'm like, oh, yeah. It's like, can you walk? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. She's like, all right, go to bed. I'm like, cool. I get up. And all I'm wearing is the vest. I totally forget about my clothes in the dryer. I just kind of wrap the vest around, which isn't really much covering. It's still kind of there. And I just walk. And her friend, she was having dinner with her friend at the time, and like her one of her girlfriends, and she's waiting in the front entrance kind of thing. And I see her, and I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? I haven't seen you forever. I go give her a drunk, naked hug, and she's like, all right, none of that. All right, cool. Like, good stuff. Go to bed. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go pass out. Now the next day, obviously, it's gangbusters. Everyone's talking about me. I wake up to just like a litany of text messages and phone calls and all this shit. Wait. I'm like, yo, Ravi, yeah.
When'd you get your phone back?
I had it with me the whole time. And this is the thing. I felt so bad. What I had done is I had put it in my sock of my outfit. Right, because I was wearing like wrestling boots, right, as a part of the costume.
Right.
I had it in there. So now I'm like, oh, my phone's here. And I'm trying to, when you wake up and you're trying to piece together the night. And so you're looking at Snapchat. And like the Snapchats are lit for like a couple hours. And then it's me doing a shot and then me doing a toke. And then there's nothing after that. Communication had ended. And I'm like, God damn it, what the hell? I look at my phone and it's just a litany of messages like, are you alive? Other people were messaging R.I.P. Ravi. I don't know if they were being jokingly or real, but I was just like, oh, goddamn, like, I really fucked up last night. So I call my buddy. I'm like, hey, man, I'm really sorry if I fucked up. He's like, oh, bro, you were the man last night. I'm like, was I? He's like, oh, dude, you were the life of the party. And I'm like, did I freak out at all? You guys like, yeah, I thought it was a bit. And I'm like, yes, a bit. It was a bit. Totally. I was just joking around. And he's like, oh, yeah, dude, you were the man, dude. That was awesome. Good times. And I'm like, all right, if we're cool, we're good. So good. Problem solved there. One fire is put out. I call my girl. I'm like, hey, you good? She's like, no, you need to apologize to her, to this person, to this person. Like, you were out of line. All this. I'm like, hey, you know what? My bad. I'll do that stuff. All good. So I do that. My sister-in-law, though, obviously is still a little shell-shocked, right? Because she sees her young brother-in-law, very vulnerable and naked, which you never want to see. And, kind of overweight naked is never good. Like, it's not like I'm Zac Efron naked where it's like, wow, this guy looking good. I wasn't looking too good,
it
where
maybe
it's like,
wasn't, her cup of tea.
No, not, I mean, she might be into that. I don't know, but people are she might be, but no, from her reaction and the reaction of others, they were not. My brothers thought it was hilarious. They were laughing, they were dying. My sister-in-law, not so much. And she told my mom, which I'm not super tight with my mom. I don't talk to her. My mom doesn't really say too much to me, but she was on my ass for this one. She's like, what the hell's the matter with you? And I'm like, hey, my bad, and she's like, what happened? I'm like, I just drank too much. Obviously, you don't want to tell your mom you're doing shrooms and mush and you're getting dosed with fucking Molly and whatnot. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I drank too much. I got fucked up. She's like, okay, fair enough. It happens. As long as you're okay, whatever, that's fine. My sister-in-law, though, is shell-shocked. She's telling everyone, like, oh, man, Ravi came home drunk. He was naked, whatever. And some people are telling me, like, yo, did you really show up at home naked in front of her? Like, just, I'm like, I blacked out naked, okay? There's these stories or whatever.
It's a very different.
And in my sister-in-law's defense, I think she was so shell-shocked because it was the first time she got to see what a real man looked like.
Wow.
And that is the wild, precarious situation where she was also put in a precarious situation.
Wow, and, you came for your brother. You ended with coming for
well, let's not say I came, because that's going to just spread some more rumors.
That's a whole different.
I was at half mast, and I blame the Molly, if anything. But, I think we're closer because of it. We still bring it up every now and then.
And you can have a laugh about it?
Yeah, we laugh about it now, and at the time it's still funny. Like my brother, I tell this story, and he just dies every time. Yeah, he's like it's the most because my younger brother was at the same party, so he got to see me he got to see the progression of the night and the ebbs and flow of how it happened, And I and to quote, like people ask me, they're like, "Do you ever regret any of it, because I've settled down. Like people are like, yo, you're gonna be able to party the way you partied when quarantine and lockdown's over. I'm like, I don't know if I have it in me anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm entering into my 30s now, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do it anymore, to be honest with you. But that's the thing. Like I look back on these days though, and these nights, and it's like, well, do you regret any of it? I'm like, you know what? No. I'm like, because to quote the great Canadian philosopher Aubrey Graham, everybody dies, but not everybody lives, and another quote from the great Aubrey Graham Canadian philosopher is I'm here for a good time, not a long time. And I think I tried to live like that for a long time, and I'm glad. If anything, I got some bumps, I got some bruises, I got some scars, but I got the stories, and that is all I can ask for, I think.
I think one of my favorite quotes by him is "Everybody get your motherfucking roll on." So
there you go. It was a great. I mean, yeah, we're in America. You guys probably know him as Drake, but up here,
I was just gonna say, I wasn't gonna give it away. I wasn't gonna give it away. I was gonna say,
if anybody, like Aubrey Graham.
If anybody, and people are surprised I know his name. No, if I was gonna say, if anybody doesn't know who that is, do yourself a favor. It's the man, the myth, the legend, Drizzy Driz.
Hey, he's got a little bit of a career going for himself now. I think he's doing okay. Yeah.
He's all right. So that was great. That was a wild story. That seems like a really fun party to go to have been at. Now, this friend that threw the party.
Yes.
When this is all over, do you think they will throw more parties like that, or are they kind of winding down too?
I see, and that's the thing. Like, everyone's kind of getting engaged and married now, so it's like, to a point, we kind of gotta, your time comes and goes, and I feel like we're at that kind of, at that end kind of period. But then I look at older guys like the uncles and stuff, and they're still partying pretty hard, because I think what it gets to now at our age is like, especially with doing comedy, it's like every night is a party,
Yes.
Like the hang of the whole thing. It's like, and you kind of pick and choose. Like, I'm not getting, because like a lot of, like, I'm producing a lot of these shows, so it's like I can't really get too fucked up or drink a lot or whatever, right? Like, I'll smoke some weed in between sets or whatever when I'm hosting, but I'm not getting like, I'm not doing like these king shots, like I'm not taking these, big ass shots. I'll have a shot if there's someone at the show wants to buy a shot or whatever, I'll do a shot with them, but I'm not getting like destroyed every night, but and I don't know if I'm gonna go back to that, because now especially it's like I've kind of switched over to just edibles now, so it just mellows me out now. I'm good to go to a party and just do edibles and just enjoy and chill out, and I'll still tell stories and have a good time, but it's different. It's a different kind of, I prefer it now. But my buddies do tell me still that they hate edible me because I'm just mean, and I just tend to roast people when I'm on edibles, so I'll just kind of just go, and so they don't like it. A few of them do, but a lot of them prefer alcohol me, just because it was for them. They got to kind of enjoy themselves and see me do crazy shit at my expense, whereas with the edibles, it's at their expense. I'm just coming at them, as opposed to the other way where I was just doing dumb shit and getting a laugh that way, right? So I prefer it. I think at my age, I can't put my body through it at this point, I don't think.
No. Hangovers hit different in your 30s.
They do. They really do. And it's like, and that's the thing with the Southeast Asian culture, like Indian culture, we don't have a word for hangover.
Really?
It doesn't exist. We just don't. Yeah, it's not a thing, because a lot of us, you wake up and you just keep the party going, especially if it's a wedding. I don't know if you've ever been to like an Indian wedding, Rocky. Have you ever
I haven't been to an Indian wedding. I've been to a Bengali wedding.
Sure, same, but different.
Okay. Yes.
But
I've been to a Bengali
was it like
wedding.
a week long? Yeah, they're like week-long spectacles, where there's a different event every night. And a lot of these are for the women. Like, they do like the henna party, they do like the dance party. There's a bunch of this stuff. And then there's like a wedding reception, whatever. So you're drinking this entire week. That's kind of culturally where it starts. Like drinking for us is just such a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like you get together and it's just what we do. It's just so culturally acceptable from such a young age to just binge drink like that.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it. And now there's terms for all this stuff where I'm like, uncle, you shouldn't binge drink that much, man. Don't you got to drive? He's like, I'm fine. Don't worry. It's good.
Oh, no.
All right, man, whatever you want to do. Your call, man. But it's still fun to for us, it's just fun to see. And I like the fact that like when I was growing up, I got to have all these drunk uncles who were just real party animals, like in their day, like we'll go to these parties and, wild shit would happen. Like even back then, like in the 80s, like we thought the 90s and 2000s were crazy. The 80s and 70s, like I'll watch old like Betamax videos of like parties. And like, I got my uncle, like half of my family's Fijian. My mom's from Fiji, my dad's from India. Same but different. But anyways, my Fiji side is just hardcore partiers, because they're really influenced by like just hip hop and just culture, like that type of black culture there, right? So like they're just partying on a different level. Like there's a video of my uncle, and he's DJing, and I'm like, who the hell is that guy? He's just got a big like afro, and I'm like, who's that? Like, oh, that's your Uncle Mike, and I'm like, oh shit, and he's got his crates of DJ equipment, and he's DJing, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know he DJ'd. And then the next thing, the scene cuts because it was like an old school camera, and then it's in the parking lot, and he's just shit kicking some small Fijian guy. I'm like, whoa, what's happening there? And he's like, oh, my mom's like, oh, this guy came to Canada, and then he decided to steal your uncle's records crate, one of them, right? Because you would show up to a party back then when you're DJing with
a bunch of them,
4 milk cartons of like records, like a milk crate, right?
Yeah, because records have like 2 songs on each side.
Yeah, the A and the B, and you got to mix and match. It's not like now you put an iPod with Spotify on, you're good to go.
Done,
Back then it was an art form to it. So my uncle's just shit kicking this dude, this small pinner Fijian guy, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? He's like, oh yeah, he tried to steal his records. They beat him up, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, you guys are wild back then.
Yeah.
So it's just, I like the fact that like my nephews and nieces now kind of get to see me as that guy now. Like I've kind of taken that drunk party uncle championship, and it's a title that to a lot of people doesn't mean anything, but to me, I mean, it's like the Stonecutters from The Simpsons. It still means something, Yeah, it really shouldn't. We should probably do away with these kind of institutions and whatnot. But honestly, I mean, I think it needs to exist, just to let these kids know that before them and their parties, we were partying, and we knew how to party. Every generation will say, well, we were partiers, not you guys don't know how to party, we party. And like to the thing, like the 70s and the 80s crowd, they had like, I mean, they pretty much had, I'm sure there was some cocaine going around at these parties for sure.
Oh,
but I mean, it was mostly 100%. And the Fijian side of the family, 100%. I see these guys and they sniff a little too much for my liking. I know something was going on there.
I know that sniff.
I know that sniff very well. I'm very adverse in that. But like with us, like we have the party favors. Like the fact that we can just show up with whatever, and there's a mushroom station, and a weed station, an edible station, a heavier station. It's cool to kind of party like that. I don't know how kids party nowadays. I really don't. I don't know. It's weird with like this Zoom generation now of like there's a whole generation of high schoolers and seniors who just didn't have those high school party experiences.
Yeah,
I feel for them. I'm like, oh, like what are they just gonna go to college and learn? But by then you should know how to party. It's like I feel like there's gonna be a weird disconnect amongst people where it's like parties are just gonna be different. It's gonna be weird.
Parties are ever evolving, and I think about when I was 16, 17 partying with my high school friends, and we had those cameras that you just snap and you have to go get developed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, everyone had a cell phone. That was a thing, but the pictures on the cell phone was not really a big thing. If you had a picture on your cell phone, it was just, you weren't uploading. It was very
different. You look like a CJ from San Andreas and Grand Theft Auto for PS2.
Very pixelated.
Like it's very pixelated. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So I know that there were a lot of nights where I would party and drink with my friends, and I think about, the things we were doing and the way we were behaving and the way we may have like physically looked, because nobody really cared about makeup and contouring and, curling your hair and stuff. So I'm glad for my sake and my friend's sake that we didn't have this social media culture, but I still got to experience, having a cell phone and that kind of up and up. But it is a very different party culture, but every generation adjusts. We might look at them like, oh, they don't even know what they're missing. Just like the way older people, look at us and say, oh, they don't know what they're missing. So that's going to be a continuous thing. But drinking, drugs, unfortunately and fortunately, neither of those things are going away. They've been here since the dawn of time and they ain't going anywhere. So either experience it responsibly or experience it not responsibly. They're not going anywhere. I say, I'm telling people as a listener of the podcast, do it responsibly, but I can't always say that I have.
Like know your limit, play within it. That's all it is. That's a good kind of party quote from a party expert, a connoisseur of partying. That's all you got to do. As long as you know your limit, stay within it, have a good time. And there'll be other people telling you, hey, slow down. You might want to, might want to slow down. You're going too fast. And I'm like,
Yeah.
There's no such thing. It's too fast. Like,
Everybody
let's just enjoy this while we're here.
Yeah, everyone has to learn their own journey. There is one thing you said that I want to go back to before we wrap up.
Sure.
You were saying, and I really agree with you on this, you were saying the comedy culture is a party, and that was one of the things I loved. I've done improv for years, and one of the things that was great about the shows is after the shows, everybody having a drink together, everybody smoking a little weed together, or even if you're not drinking or smoking weed, just being in that circle of laughs and people roasting each other, and it's really not like anything else. So what do you kind of see for the Canadian comedy scene once everything's back open and people are comfortable hanging?
Yeah, I think things are gonna go back to normal. I don't know. Like, I can't do the Zoom shows. A lot of people are trying with the Zoom shows.
Right.
It's not comedy. It's not live comedy. When it's good, like stand-up comedy, it needs to be underground, kind of like in the best nights of comedy I've had. Like, yes, you do theaters, you do whatever, it's fun, but the small rooms of like 35 to 50, where it's intimate, and just when you're in a room and it's dark and there's things that are going to get said where you're like, all right, yeah, you shouldn't really be saying these things. Like, we get it, and we're just all in on it, and a lot of times, sometimes people aren't in on it, and that's where you run into problems. But with Vancouver as well, I think we're moving to a point now where, like, cancel culture, and like, I agree. Like, here's the thing with cancel culture, like, we'll talk about cancel culture a little bit, like, because it's a big thing with comedy. It's like cancel culture. Yes, I agree. There's things, just with the times changing and whatnot, there's things you shouldn't be allowed to say. Like, there's a difference between hate speech and just a comedic point of view, right? Obviously, hate speech shouldn't be allowed. Like, as a producer of shows, when we hear that shit, it's like, hey, come on, like, get out of here. Like, we'll pull you. We'll talk. We'll have a conversation about. We have to, right? Because it's just, especially in Vancouver, it's more of a politically correct kind of city, right? Like, we kind of, as being a city we are, like, things, you got to kind of keep it above par, right? Okay. But when it comes to comedy, at the same time, I do feel that with the stage, it's sacred ground. Like, we're up there to explore these ideas and these things that you're not necessarily supposed to talk about, these taboo subjects. When you can approach it in a creative way and make people think a different way, like, it's different than just going up there and just pulling a Kramer, where that's not acceptable anywhere, and it shouldn't be. But if you're up there and exploring a tough topic and exploring it in a different, like, especially with me, like being an Indo-Canadian Indian guy in Vancouver, like, Vancouver's such a melting pot, Canada's such a melting pot of cultures, and I talk a lot about, like, different cultures, different religions, different, like, a lot of taboo subjects. But I don't know if it's for me anyways, like, I kind of, for whatever reason, not that I'm saying I want to get away with it, but I feel like there's a little leniency there with me, where I'll go up there and do my thing. And it's not fair. I mean, I get it. It shouldn't be like that. But for whatever reason, it's the way you approach it too. If you go up there all cocky, like, oh yeah, this and that, no one's going to fuck with that. But if you're like, I feel like I kind of approach it kind of chill, laid back, humbleness. Like, have you guys thought about this? And, and it's kind of like, I'm just kind of, hey, let's tiptoe a little. Here's the line. Let's tiptoe. That's what I say, like, the habitual line stepper. I look for the line, and I know the line's there, and I'm just kind of diddle-daddling around it, like, that's the fun of it. That's the game. That's the comedy of this of it. Like, so to a point, to wrap it up, like, I feel like, like, with comedy, I'm under the impression that it should be just open season, say what you want to say, but be smart about it. You can say whatever you want to say, but at the same time, there's personal responsibility, where it's like, yo, man, be cool about where you're going to be and walk that. If you're going to walk that line, don't fall off that tightrope, because it's a very tight rope to walk. You got to stay within the lines. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I tell the comics to do the shows. Like, say what you want, but be cool about it. Like, don't go totally crazy.
And be ready for whatever repercussions by testing those waters and testing those lines. You have to be ready for whatever repercussions may come your way. What I think I'm seeing a lot of now, especially in the States, are comedians who are canceled. Then they just come back. People are getting canceled so much that they, hide for 6 to 8 months and then pop back up. So it is it's a dangerous road and dangerous waters to navigate, but it's also, comedy is so worth it and so necessary that people have to navigate those waters. So
yeah, honestly, that's like people ask me, what's the best drug you've ever done? Because I've done Pretty much everything under the sun, other than like the needle ones, because I don't like needles. But we'll see. Maybe after I get the COVID vaccine, I might get into needles. We'll see.
I don't recommend it. I don't recommend
no, especially in Canada. Like you guys were kind of like you guys secured. I mean, they're all kind of made in the States, so you guys have a lot of vaccines. Canada, not so much. Like we're good about like the masks and. Yeah, like we got nothing out here. Like we were social distancing. Everyone was really good for like the first month, like right away. We nipped it in the bud, and then we were able to kind of come back for the summer. So last summer we were running full capacity every night, and we were kind of like the only live entertainment in town. The Comedy Ring, we're the only show that we're running, so we were selling out every night. Yeah. You know, it was awesome. But then we like after the summer, shit just like we got into the second wave, and then they had started shutting everything down. So we've been shut down since November. Right. Like the last night of comedy, we did a roast battle on November the 14th at the House of Comedy here. And then everything shut down the next day. And it's been shut down since. And we're almost going on to 6 months. But like for traveling, like I miss going to the States. Like I got my Nexus and I haven't been able to use it because it's just like, I can't go anywhere. Like I want to hit up Seattle. I want to hit up Portland, LA, but I can't. Like I'm just stuck here. So we'll see when things open up again. I'll get it. But yeah, people ask me what the best drug I've ever done is. And to me, it's comedy. Yeah. As corny as it is to say, it is such a drug when the fact that what we do to make a room full of strangers laugh, where they like a lot of comedy's first impressions, like people just see you, they're like, oh, this person doesn't look funny, this person's gonna suck. And then when you're able to go up there and just turn the crowd and then kind of like what I like to do is I like to get the crowd on my side and then I like to lose the crowd and then bring them back. You know, it's the best feeling where people are like, man, I don't want to like this guy, but there's something, you know, like it's charming, it's whatever, it's stupid, but you know, like I like that. That's the game. Like that's the tightrope rock. It's the best drug there is to do. And that's the problem with comedy too. Yeah, and it's the best too because you have that adulation. People are fucking with you, they're smoking with you, they're buying you shots. Sometimes, like after shows, I always go stand outside, have a smoke or whatever, just to give people the opportunity, if they had a problem with anything I said, to come up and talk to me. And then they see like within 10 seconds, like, oh, it's a character. It's not real. That's why I do like the Ruthless Ravi Khanna thing. People are like, oh, what's up with the Ruthless? It's like it ties into the wrestling thing a bit. Like I'm a huge wrestling fan, so I like having the gimmick there. But it kind of lets people differentiate. Like, oh, there's Ravi Khanna. And then there's Ruthless Ravi Khanna, where it's like, oh, it's a stage thing. Okay, I get it. Like pretty quickly, people are like, oh, you're not crazy. Okay, I get it. Fine. Yeah. You know, and then so yeah, you're outside and you're having these great talks with people. Everyone's having a good time. People are taking pictures, getting your Instagram, getting your Snapchat. It's all fun. And then you're just at 3 a.m. in your car on the highway driving home, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Listen to some sad Johnny Cash or whatever it is. Yeah. Like, God,
you're like, I really do walk the line.
Yeah, I do. I'm like, oh, cause you're mine. I walk the line. Yeah, that's what it is. I love, like, it's the best thing. It really is. And that's the thing, like with COVID and everything, like you really got to see who to me, it's like, I never want to stop doing it now. It's like, yeah, like in Vancouver, like, yeah, we were producing shows. The Comedy Ring kind of became like the main show in town because all the clubs, like we don't have a Yuck Yucks now. We don't have like all the clubs are shutting down in Vancouver. They're shutting down. Right? Yeah. A lot of them here. Because of rent in like Vancouver. It's like San Fran where the rent is just insane. So all these clubs are so, yeah. And a lot of like it takes place in bars and restaurants, mostly the comedy. Right. But with us, like we're lucky we have like 5 different venues that we just do shows out of, and they're all like, they feel like comedy clubs. They got like a nice bar area, they got the stage, they got the lighting, like it feels like a comedy club at a lot of these shows. So we're lucky in that when we start up again, like we're ready to hit the ground running, and people are craving live stuff. Like you can't even go watch a hockey game here, like things aren't open. So I think for comedy, things are going to come back better than they were. I mean, I know like Texas is just blowing up right now with the comedy. So
while we're digital, where can everybody find you online? Give us some plugs, give us some
yes
everything.
This is where I shine. For plugs, if you'd like to see more or hear more of what I do here, because I think people hear about Canadian comedy and they're like, Canadian comedy sucks, like whatever. Like I guess Schitt's Creek is like our number one thing. Yeah, no, there's a lot of great Canadian comedy. There really is.
Most but people's heroes are Canadian comedians. Jim Carrey, for sure. Like Myers. Yeah.
Russell Peters for me is like my guy. But that's the thing. Like people hear Canadian comedy and they're like, they have maybe a preconceived notion of it. It's a lot of fun. Like, you know, I feel like we kind of get away with a little bit more just because we're up here and no one is paying attention. So if you'd like to see more kind of if you like your comedy uncensored, kind of Opie and Anthony style, like from the past, or Patrice kind of thing, www.wtfyvr.com is the website for the podcast. We just talk about, you know, pop culture news, stuff like that. And then there's the Comedy Ring. The Comedy Ring is the comedy group we have out here. We run a lot of the shows out in Vancouver. If you're ever out here, the Comedy Ring. We also do the Comedy Ring podcast. It's more of like a dating and relationship. We just kind of take advice and we just talk about dating and relationships from
Excellent.
three guys who really shouldn't be talking about dating and relationships because we have no idea.
Mhm.
But yeah, so those things there. And then Ruthless Ravi Khanna on everything. You can find me on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, all that stuff. So
All the good stuff.
that's me. Yes.
Well, this was an amazing story. I'm sad that we will never get to party as people in our 20-year-old people, but I have a good feeling that we'll probably share a drink and share a laugh in person in the future, mainly because you have my weed and mushrooms.
Yes, I do. I'll get those out to you. I will get those out to you.
I'm so excited. That was so thoughtful, and I really appreciate you telling the story.
Thank you. No worries. Thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This is like the first like American thing I've done. So thank you for having me on. This is like the Beatles Ed Sullivan moment, you know?
Oh my
So
God, what an honor to be Ed Sullivan.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you, Ravi. I loved having you on.
Thank you, Rocky. I appreciate it.
We'll talk soon. Bye.